Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Craig hiking pipes, and it's Friday, which means it's Friday story time. And as typical, the Friday 7LE commemorative pipe, and in it, some esoterica Tilbury. When is comfy required? Or when is it required to be comfortable? So, what I tend to do, right or wrong, is when difficult times occur, I try to inject humor. Sometimes it's inappropriate, sometimes it works. Well, my mom and father had divorced when I was much younger. And my mom finally remarried my stepfather, who was a really, really nice man, treated her like royalty. However, he was 26 years her senior. Dirty old man. But anyway, he and my mom have both passed now, but he had passed first. And when he had passed, of course, it's a very difficult time. And he had three children, fully grown, well into their adulthood, 40 years old. And when he passed, his daughter and my mom kind of were at the forefront of handling arrangements for his funeral. And of course, I was there for my mom and his daughter. So it's a difficult time. As anyone who's lost a loved one knows, you have to make a lot of arrangements and a lot of sadness going on. But we had to go to the funeral home and start making the arrangements for him. And so we walked into the funeral home this morning after he had passed. And we had no sleep and really exhausted emotionally, physically. And you start going through the process of, making these arrangements. And one of the things they do, at least at this funeral home, is they took us into the back room because you have to pick out the coffin casket, and you go into this room and there's like 20 coffins back there, and it's like now you have to make a selection on what coffin. And there's wooden ones, there's metal ones, there's different finishes and what have you. So we go through a systematic evaluation on what we feel he would have preferred to have been buried in. And we get down to this nice wooden coffin. He liked woodworking. And then they start hitting you with all these extras. And we're standing there, my mother, myself, and his daughter, my stepsister. And they start trying to upsell. It's almost like, unfortunately, it's almost like a used car salesman or a car salesman trying to tack on extras when you go to buy a vehicle. That's kind of how I looked at it. And one of the things they were trying to upsell was, okay, you have the coffin, and for an extra, I don't know, what was it, $500, whatever the cost was, we could upgrade the bedding in the coffin from just what was described as like kind of stuffed hay into the fabric. You can get memory foam. And I sat there for a minute and I watched my mother and my stepsister kind of debating it in their minds whether or not they should go for this upgrade or not. And after a few minutes of discussion between them, and they were kind of leaning towards this upgrade, I kind of interjected myself at this point and said, do you think he's going to be any less comfortable on the hay? And they kind of stopped. They looked at me and they just started to laugh. And they said, you're right. This is kind of silly. You're sitting here, contemplating getting memory foam for a deceased person. Because why? They're going to be more comfortable? Anyway, we all kind of laughed. And they saw the pragmatic approach. And they decided not to go with this particular upgrade. So that's kind of how I generally try to handle uncomfortable situations, stressful situations. I try to inject some pragmatic levity into it. I tend to be a very pragmatic person. But yeah, will a deceased person really care that you chose the standard hay in the same covering as memory foam? Not to me. So, just maybe some thoughts to think about as we all encounter some stressful situations and try to keep a more logical, pragmatic approach to things. That's my little quick story of the day. So, my stepfather was buried. I'm sure he was just as comfortable on the standard hay bedding as he would have been on the memory foam. And we all miss him very much. So, until then, next time, be well, be safe. We'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.